Hello friends, welcome back. Today I will talk about another aspect of POS. Previously I talked about meaning in work. Today I will talk about another aspect, that is work engagement. This is one of the most researched concept in positive organizational scholarship, which was coined by Kahan in the year 1990. This term refers that to what extent an employee gives all his true self to the work. The employee is completely immersed, deeply involved, engaged in a work in a way that his or her focus is completely on the outcome of the work. This is only possible when the employee tends to engage with the job in a very deep manner. So, according to Kahan, work engagement can be defined as harnessing of organizational members' selves to their work roles. To what extent they are attached, they are hooked to their jobs in a way that they are immersed, they are completely focused on their work itself. But at the same time, when any employee who is not engaged with his work, then due to certain untoward factors or events, then the employee tends to decouple himself or herself from the work and involved in certain counterproductive work behaviors such as withdrawing from the job or defending themselves during role performances. If there is any misfit between an employee and the job itself, then there is no interest to perform the job. Then the person tries to deviate from his basic performances as well, and engaging with the job becomes a distant object or motive of an employee. So, such unemployment of the self in one's role is considered robotic or apathetic behavior, when the person fails to relate himself with the job, perform in a very robotic or mechanical manner, and the job is done. So, there is no psychological association of an individual work, it leads to work disengagement. Whereas, if the person is psychologically associated with his or her job in a very deep manner, then it is known as work engagement. So, there are three aspects of work engagement, that means at which level we are attached or engaged with work. So, there are three factors or aspects to understand work engagement: cognitive, emotional and physical. So, physical engagement, this relates to the extent to which employees expend their efforts, both physical and mental, as they go about their jobs. It is about the physical energy that has been invested to perform a particular job. Now, this describes that the person is actually physically flying around at the work, and there is so much of immersion in the way that he or she is experiencing high levels of personal engagement during that time. And this physical engagement is linked to the ability to expend physical and mental energy at work with increased feelings of confidence. So, this is the outcome, that when a person is psychologically associated, is harnessed with the work in a very emotional manner, then the outcome is not only effectiveness, but actually the confidence the person gets out of performing that job. It is all the physical exertion that a person makes to perform any job. This is the physical engagement. The other is cognitive engagement. This is to be engaged at this level means to know that what their employee's vision is and how they will deliver to that expectation. So, once the organization goal has been identified, it is not that the employee will just perform the job. To what extent or to what degree, when employee is visualizing the motive or visualizing the goal and then performing the job, then definitely the outcome is different, which can be more attributed to an individual's cognition, that where and at what point the employee is focusing on the motive of the higher authorities and then touching upon those sensitivities of the job. That is the cognitive engagement. So, this actually helps employee to deliver, to contribute to them as much as possible. When all the sensitive aspects of the work has been identified by the employee, then we can say that the employee is cognitively engaged with the job. Kahan also drew attention to the meaning that people attach to their work, theorizing that more knowledge encouraged more creativity and confident decision making. Any normal employee would take up the the instructions from the leader or higher authority, and he or she would perform the job in a very robotic or mechanical manner. But there are very few employees who will actually touch upon the sensitivities of the objectives of the organizations, which requires more knowledge, and they will identify the loopholes in their own performance, and they will fill those gaps while enhancing their knowledge, skills and abilities, and then perform the job. So, cognitive here means that understanding the cues from the job itself they get and how they tend to interpret and perform accordingly. So, this is the cognitive engagement or aspect of work engagement construct. And the other is emotional engagement. This is based on the emotional relationship that employees feel with their employees. It is not about that just getting attached to the job and the work is done. When we are performing the job while immersed in the work itself, then it also requires to be emotionally attached with the employer. That means a positive relationship will require the organization to learn how to create a sense of belongingness at work. It is from both the sides. Even the employer has to be emotionally connected to the employer, so that the employee is also able to reciprocate the same kind of connection, establish the same kind of connection with the employer. So, this helps in not only encouraging or building trust among the employee and the employer, but they also understand the values and mission of the organization. So, both the parties, the employee and the employer, when they are trusting each other, then that is only possible to understand the vision and mission of the organization, and based on that more interpersonal relationships become strong, the dynamics becomes very positive. That means less conflict is there and more conflict resolution will exist, and management styles become more participative, democratic and more out of control. That would make people feel safe and trusted. So, in essence, Kahan believed that engaging employees across 3 dimensions would help employees to feel secure in their roles. They feel that the efforts they are making are worth, and believe that they would support it in their physical and mental efforts. So, mental, physical and cognitive factors play a very role when engagement of employees plays a significant role. Why? Because organization is also there to make the employees more engaged or engaging, and at the same time employees also understand the sensitivities of the organization and try to engage or immerse in the job itself. So, these are the reciprocal factors that exist in an organization where employees can be engaged, that is physical, emotional and cognitive. Next comes that engagement is not only associated with these aspects, but some constructs of job involvement also exist at the same time. It is not only physical energy, it is not only the emotional component, it is not only the cognitive component, but some workplace component in terms of job involvement also leads to work engagement, and this leads employee to experience a state of flow. Now, this is actually defined as that when the employee is involved in the job, it is the degree to which the job situation is central to the person and his or her identity. When the person understands the significance of the job, that what I will get out of it in terms of identity, in terms of role, because any employee will be performing a particular piece of job which is identifiable, which has significance with lot of autonomy, then the job becomes very involving to an employee. This is one aspect, right? But at the same time, when a person is psychologically identifying himself or herself with the job, then it leads to flow. That means to what extent the individual employs his or herself during the performance, it actually engages or entails engagement, which is the active use of emotions and behaviors in addition to cognition. So, it is not only about physical, emotional or cognitive. To what extent the person identifies himself with the job, that will lead to a state of flow and engagement. Here the flow word means that there is more immersion of an individual into the job, there is more symbiotic relationship between the individual and the job, and this actually leads to engagement, which may be thought of as an antecedent to job involvement, and in that individual who experiences deep engagement in their roles should come to identify with their jobs. So, it is a positive or virtuous cycle of positive deviances, that emotional, cognitive and physical factors are also existing. At the same time, these factors will lead to job involvement and flow, and finally leads to work engagement. Now, when we are talking about flow, this is actually the outcome of work engagement, that if work engagement is being perceived, then what is again beyond work engagement? Work engagement is itself a positive deviance, then again it is spiraling to another aspects, that is a state of flow. It is a holistic sensation that people feel when they act with total involvement. All the aspects are there, emotional, cognitive, physical, and at the same time job involvement is also there, then actually again one more positive deviance will unfold at psychological level, that is flow in terms of holistic sensation. It is complete immersion of an individual with the job. So, flow is a state in which there is little distinction between the self and the environment. When individuals are in a state of flow, little conscious control is necessary for their actions. The employee as an individual unconsciously gets deeply involved into the job, where the attention is very specific to the stimuli, and they lose a sense of consciousness about their selves as they meld with the activity itself. That means, there is complete melding of employee and the job, where there is unconscious immersion, unconscious engagement more than requirement, and then there is positive outcome. So, individuals in a flow experience need no external rewards or goals to motivate them, as the activity itself presents constant challenges and leads to thriving and flourishing. So, the person who is engaged in the job, deeply engaged with the job, is not engaged because he or she will get some monetary reward or recognition in return. It is their interest, it is their degree to what extent they are psychologically attached to their job. So, studies of flow at work reveal that it generally tends to be associated with successful experiences with challenging tasks. Interest, challenge, when combines, it leads to flow and creativity. There are better solutions to the problems when employees are very much into that job or problem. So, this is how work engagement has been conceptualized based on cognitive, emotional and physical aspect, and to what extent the person identifies himself or herself with the job, leading to involvement, state of flow. Next comes the key set of variables that drive work engagement. We are talking about work engagement, we are talking about physical, emotional and cognitive factors, we are talking about job involvement, and we are also talking about flow. The outcome of work engagement is flow, but there are certain variables that push an individual, that drives an individual in a state of flowing engagement. What are those factors? So, Kahan has identified, and some other OB professionals have identified, two resources which drive an individual into a state of engagement. They are job resources and personal resources. Job resources, these resources are associated in terms of social support from co-workers and from superiors, performance feedback or positive performance feedback, coaching, job control, task variety, opportunities for learning and development and training facilities, as these resources are helpful in reducing the impact of job demands on the strain, and they are useful in achievement of work goals and stimulate learning, personal growth and development. The more organizational factors on the job itself are supporting an individual's performance, the more the person is motivated, less strain is observed or less stress is observed, although the job is demanding. So, to curb that feeling of that the job is demanding, the organizational factors play a very important role, where the support is not only focusing to get the best out of the employees, but to what extent the support actually is promoting personal growth and stimulate learning and development. The job assigned should be in a way which should accompany not only organizational support, but individual growth as well. So, that makes a job more engaging. So, these resources when are consistent with the job and the employee, then we can say that there is a high motivational potential of job resources which leads to work engagement. Now, here motivational potential has been identified in blue. There is a specific meaning of this term and we are relating it with work engagement. Actually, it is the overall potential of the job to enhance substantial motivation. It is a unique index of the job which states that to what extent the job is highly motivational in terms of task significance, task variety, skill variety, autonomy and feedback. More the job is identifiable, more it requires variety in performing the task, more it requires skills to perform the task, more there is autonomy, more an employee thinks that the job is very significant to him or her, and the more the person receives positive feedback from superordinates and subordinates, then that job is considered to be highly motivating, or it has motivational potential to keep an employee engaged with the work. So, this is a specific term, that is motivational potential, the measure of the overall potential of the job to enhance substantial motivation among employees. Another is personal resources. So, personal resources such as optimism, self-efficacy and resilience are functional in controlling the environment and exerting an impact on it in a successful way. That means, this constitutes that whatever job has been assigned to any employee, it should offer or reflect some kind of positivity in terms of optimism, self-efficacy and resilience. No matter what, the task that has been assigned is very difficult, it is tough, it is challenging. It needs an individual's personal strengths to be used, so that not only organizational resources, but personal strengths or factors also contribute in high performance. Now, this will only be highlighted when organizational support is there. As soon as organizational support comes into the picture of the performance of an employee, then these personal strengths can be enhanced or highlighted in terms of being more positive or optimistic, developing a feeling of self-efficacy while enhancing or learning new skills, and bouncing back every time the employees fail to perform the task and bring the desired results. So, the more the organizational support is there, more employees become resilient, they bounce back and again perform with result as personal growth. So, these factors make an individual highly or optimally functional towards work engagement. So, thus we can say that personal characteristics that differentiate them from less engaged employees. In other words, the more the organizational support highlights the personal strengths of the individual, the more employees become engaged and they will differentiate from the less engaged employees. So, work engagement has also been found to be related to the big 5 personality traits as well. So, it is not only about that organizational factors are supporting, so work engagement will exist. It is an individual's perception of the support as well. So, personality as well, some personal factors, personal strengths that enables a person to bring a fit between the organizational support or the job resources and their own personal resources, find a perfect blend, a perfect fit, and then performing the job with high level of work engagement. Now, this also corresponds to personality factors. If the personality factors are being used as again an orientation to enhance engagement, then it constitutes different personality factors such as extraversion, conscientiousness and emotional stability. The more the person is outgoing and able to receive positive feedback or any kind of setback, or the employee is conscious enough to take his job seriously or has more emotional stability to understand the co-workers very well, then definitely members become highly engaged. So, there is a holistic connection with the job, with the personal factors, in terms of job resources and in terms of psychological factors. So, job resources and personal resources when blend together and finding a fit with that job, then it leads to engagement or work engagement. Next comes dimensions of work engagement. Now, we have discussed at length that what is work engagement, what factors contribute to work engagement, but as a construct itself, work engagement has three dimensions. What kind of behavioral dispositions can be experienced when where we can say that the person is highly engaged. So, Kahan has talked about that work engagement can be characterized based on three dispositions: vigor, dedication and absorption. Vigor is characterized by high levels of energy and mental resilience while working with it. It is a willingness to invest effort in one's work and persistence even in the face of difficulties. It is not that even the person is becoming highly resilient, even after bouncing back from the adversity or any challenging event that has occurred while performing the job, that energy should be high. The human spirit should be very high to perform the job again with the same spirit. Every time there is some untoward event and every time the person is bouncing back and every time the person is evolving with some new kind of energy. So, this is vigor. The other is dedication. This means by being strongly involved in one's work and experiencing a sense of significance, enthusiasm, inspiration, pride and challenge. The more you respect the job, the more you connect with the job, the more you become dedicated or invested in that job itself. This is dedication. It is not only aspiration, it becomes inspiration of an individual that I have to perform this job with lot of sincerity, that integrity has to be reflected in terms of dedication. And the other is absorption. To what extent you are engrossed, you are immersed in the job, whereby time passes quickly and one has difficulty with detaching oneself from work. That time will fly and you are not able to detach yourself from the work. You are so much into enjoying the work, you will perceive your work so much fulfilling and flourishing that even the time will fly, but you are continuously working on the job. That this is giving you some pleasure, some joy, and at the same time you are coming or evolving as an efficient employee with positive organizational outcomes. So, vigor, dedication, absorption, these are the three elements of work engagement which can be identified based on the behavioral disposition of an employee, and we can perceive an employee to be highly engaged. So, this is how work engagement has been considered as an aspect or perspective of positive organizational scholarship. So, how we can identify or differentiate between engaged and disengaged employees. So, employees who are engaged, they experience positive emotions, they have better mental health, they create their own job and personal resources because they are so much engaged with their job that they try to generate more resources to perform on their own. They will not wait for the organization to first they will provide some environment or resources and then they can perform. When they are into their job, they generate their own resources, they transfer their engagement to others, and when they are engaging, they are so much engaged in the job, it leads to transferring of engagement behavior to their colleagues. Why? Because when personal and job resources are melded, then there is also transference of this kind of behavior to the other co-workers. So, these are the positive outcomes or positive spiraling of behaviors where it not only fosters productive behaviors, but psychologically productive behaviors are also being fostered at work. So, this is how work engagement exhibits positive deviances in terms of vigor, dedication and absorption. So, we are through with this unit of discussion. I will continue in the next discussion. Thank you.